Right out of high school, I joined the Air Force and I tested well enough to become a nuclear weapons technician. Now I can't hush up about it. All I do is talk Bitcoin or some type of fun regenerative agriculture. Satoshi did fix value and he fixed money, but he's also going to be responsible through that invention for starting to heal the environment. The way we're doing that is we're going to sell green bonds and we're going to back those green bonds with Bitcoin. I can't find a better life's purpose than to fix the money for the billions of people that don't even have the ability to bank themselves. I think that in order for society to continue advancing, we need to use way more energy all around the world. We just need to get better at creating those clean energy and the smart usage of it instead of just being pollutive. I'm a huge fan, and I do look forward to the day that Bitcoin mining rigs are all hooked up on massive reactors. Like when you swipe your credit card or your debit card, what's happening behind the scenes? None of them know. It's like, all right, so why do you need to know every intricate detail about the Bitcoin network?
Before we get started with the podcast, maybe give the people and the listeners a little bit of a background of who you are and why you're excited about Bitcoin.
Sure. Yeah, so I grew up in Louisiana and I went to school and rough family life. And so I learned very early that I can hide behind a smile. And as long as I was smiling, people were happy around me. And so that led me to becoming a class clown more than it led me to becoming a valedictorian. And so I had more fun in school and I was looking more for the relationships than I was the education at first. And right out of high school, I joined the Air Force and I tested well enough to become a nuclear weapons technician. And so a little bit of a difference there. Did that for 10 years and kind of had this realization that I wasn't fully on board with what the mission would require me to do in the fullest sense. And so I walked away from it at my 10-year mark and was trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And I realized that I went from joking to playing with some of the world's strongest weapon systems. So I can pretty much do anything if I honestly give it an attempt. And I fell in love with permaculture and ecological design and how to design sustainable landscapes and food systems. And so I've been doing that for about going on 10 years now. And when it comes to Bitcoin, it was this spot, because I got in about 2015, thanks to my older brother. And I remember I was putting all these pieces together about how we could design these beautiful places that continue to get healthier and better every year. But I could never figure out how I was ever going to afford one or anyone my age or below, because everyone that's accustomed or acquainted with the Fiat world, everything's going to continue to get more expensive forever. And so as I'm doing my studying through permaculture and through restoration agriculture, I had a lot of free time on my hands and I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to Andreas Antonopoulos, and everything he was saying just started to click and make sense. And so I fell in love with this idea of what the world's hardest money could really mean. And so for me, it was a huge source of hope to match with the hope in designing these agricultural systems. And so I've been a huge advocate of it ever since. And about 2017, I really started taking it serious and started putting in as much money as I could into it with every job that I would take on. And yeah, now I can't hush up about it. All I do is talk Bitcoin or some type of fun regenerative agriculture.
I love that. And you also mentioned you kind of went from nuclear weapons to planting trees, which is a fun development.
Yeah, I went from like trying to blow the world up in some aspects, in some regard, to now I'm just trying to heal it any way possible. And really, I love the idea of using Bitcoin the way we are, because it's going to give a use case to Bitcoin that gold isn't going to be able to provide. Nothing else will. And we can prove that Satoshi did fix value and he fixed money, but he's also going to be responsible through that invention for starting to heal the environment. And that's something that Fiat systems have done a great job in depleting and destroying around the world.
How is that working? For most Bitcoiners that are listening, it probably sounds quite logical. And if you say the same sentence in front of someone that hasn't studied Bitcoin, it just sounds completely absurd. How would you explain that it's logical that Bitcoin is actually good for the environment and the use cases it has?
So, that question right there is pretty much the biggest thing that we're working on, because the people that we're trying to talk to go and to work with to do this type of work, they all care about the environment, and they all care deeply about trying to make the smartest decisions when it comes to the environment. And so when you bring up Bitcoin, so many of them are bought into the FUD. They're all bought into it boils a tub of water for every transaction. And so the first thing we do is we meet them with, let's talk about what the problem is, and let's discuss like what you see as the issues in the world, and let's bring that back to, all right, well, how is that connected to the fiat money and the ability to just print money out of thin air? And once you meet people there, you can explain what great money is, like the best form of money, go into Bitcoin, and then from that explain that, yes, there is a high energy usage, but look at what we're securing with that energy usage. And people have been, I mean, knock on this table here, the conversations I've had with different practitioners from around the globe, they've been way more receptive to the idea than I expected. And so really it's just about meeting people where they are first. Don't just try to proselytize Bitcoin and just come in thinking everyone's put in even 5 hours of work to it. Let's start off with finding out what they know, what they see as the issues. From there, you can start unwinding this rabbit and saying, well, hear me out. Would you be open to this? And man, like I said, so far it's been the thing that it's been received way better than we expected. Uh, I hope it continues this way.
And you also work with, what is it called? The Bitcoin Stewardship. And there's also Daniel Batness somehow. And Daniel was, I think like a month or 2 months, maybe 3 months ago on the podcast. So that was a lot of fun also. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so we're launching a business called the Bitcoin Stewardship Initiative, and the whole idea behind it is we want to raise money. We want to make investable opportunities to go and heal the earth, to help people afford to install regenerative agriculture systems, cap oil and gas wells that are leaking methane, to go out and fight desertification around the world. And the way we're doing that is we're gonna sell green bonds, and we're gonna back those green bonds with Bitcoin. And so what we've done is I reached out to Daniel. It was probably about 3.5, 4 months ago now, and I just saw the Twitter Spaces he was on, and I was listening to it, and a guy commented below about how much help Daniel's been as a coach. And so typed up a message to Daniel. I reached out to him, and I was like, hey man, this is who I am. This is a bit of my history, and this is what I've been doing the last about 10 years, and this is what I would like to do. And I couldn't believe that he responded back pretty dang quick. And we've been coaching together now for, like I said, about 3 months, and got to meet him in Vegas for the first time, which was incredible. He's such a genuine and nice guy. And yeah, like he came on. I asked him if he would like an actual spot once we have this thing launched. Would you be okay coming on as an advisor, and in time coming on as a board member as well? And to my surprise, he was like, absolutely. I love the mission. I love what y'all are doing. And he's been able to come on, because when it comes to fighting the FUD, man, he puts on a show on Twitter about combating the misinformation that's out there, and that preventing people from being able to save for the rest of their lives.
It has gotten better. Like people like him and a lot of other people that kind of contributed a lot of facts to the discussion really kind of got this whole ESG thing a little bit out of the way. This is where I feel like why Bitcoin is actually working. Even if Bitcoin would have been flawed, the Bitcoin has such great people in there that we will fix all the flaws that will come out in Bitcoin, and we will fight to death to actually defend why Bitcoin is better to the world. And the good thing is we have the facts on our side, and we will present them as good as we can. And yeah, from there we can just go and do things. It's fascinating.
I can't remember who said that not too long ago. Like, you can just go and do it. Like, you don't have to wait for permission. I wish I could remember who said it on Twitter, and I've seen it a bunch since then, and it's spot on. Like, we can just go and do things, take a risk, and put in your work before it. Take that risk, and the Bitcoin community has been so positive whenever we would start talking to people about what we want to do or what the hopes are, everybody's been so supportive. How can we help? What do you need? And that's great because you don't get that in a ton of other communities. There's a very scarcity mindset in a bunch of other communities. Whereas in Bitcoin, the mindset is abundance, even though it's a scarce asset, which is kind of backwards when you think about it. But when you get to Bitcoin, people realize that if this thing continues playing out the way we've all put in these, thousands of hours to understand, then whatever amount you have right now, as long as you can pass that on, it's enough to change your bloodline. The real thing is, how early does that change come into effect? And so I can't find a better life's purpose than to fix the money for the billions of people that don't even have the ability to bank themselves, and they're subject to restructuring loans that Alex Gladstein's pointed out in the IMF and the World Bank. And man, that's just a wild concept.
Yeah, it's a way better system. It's so obviously 100x, 1000x better than what we currently have, that of course it gets adopted. And it's interesting when we think about the energy use and Bitcoin mining. How do you feel like, what is kind of the connection between Bitcoin and renewable energy, and maybe also like as you worked in nuclear weapons, maybe like nuclear energy also in the mix? Seems to be a big how should I say? A lot of people in Bitcoin with the energy, they also like nuclear energy in that mix. How do you see the connection between renewable nuclear energy and like mining in general?
Yeah, no, there's very much a connection there. And that's one of the points I love to point out to people when I am having this conversation we talked about earlier is when you look at the amount of the network that's secured by renewable energy or by stranded energy that wouldn't be used otherwise, it would just be wasted. I mean, it's way up there. It's over half the network now that's being secured by these methods, and that's only going to continue to grow because Bitcoin is built in order to, or incentivized, you're incentivized to find the cheapest amount of available energy. And so I think it's an incredible thing, and it was a huge FUD part for a while, but I was talking to a man recently and he was explaining, that's great that they're using the stranded energy. That's fine, but it's still producing a lot of heat. And I said, but the heat is a thing that we can now layer on different like use cases on top of. And he just kind of looked at me, what do you mean? Well, there's people in the colder part of the world that are using that to extend the growing season in their greenhouses. There's people that are using it, like the Bitcoin timber people that are the sawmill, that's a Bitcoin standard. They're going on and they're using that to dry out all the wood, which normally it would air dry and take so much longer. There's projects overseas in Europe where they're using it to actually heat cities and warehouses. And it's like, so if we can stack and layer these functions, which is one of the things we're taught to do when we're doing our ecological design, then there's such an amazing thing that is there that's the base case is money. And so when it comes to nuclear, I'm personally a huge fan. I think that as long as it's done smartly and safely, it is very safe. I understand people say when it goes wrong bad. And if you look at some of the incidents in the past, they're not wrong. But at the same time, when you look at how much power it can produce, how clean it is, and what it really represents, I tend to err on the side that I think that in order for society to continue advancing, we need to use way more energy all around the world. We just need to get better at creating those clean energy and the smart usage of it instead of just being pollutive and kind of destructive with the use. And so I'm a huge fan, and I do look forward to the day that Bitcoin mining rigs are all hooked up on massive reactors, because it only makes sense that energy would go to producing the world's hardest money and securing the strongest wall of cryptographic energy.
It's so weird, those arguments that sometimes come with like, yeah, but like, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong badly. The same thing you can say about an airplane. If you drive a car and a car has an accident, it's not as bad as if an airplane has an accident, because potentially in an airplane crash, everyone dies. Like if an airplane crashes or has some major failure, the chances that everyone dies is a lot higher than if the same thing happens with cars. So I think like new technology always has to be has to paddle dust the ideas way better than anything else. And nuclear energy has, I think, like has a very hard thing, because they are doing something dangerous, but at the same time, it is an extremely amazing technology. And I don't understand enough to really talk about that, but I think it should be it should never be an argument of like, oh, if it goes bad, it goes bad really badly. That it seems
Yeah,
like a
genuine,
very stupid argument for me.
but I get it. Like, we're not taught. It's instinctive in human nature to find what could be a problem and to try to solve for it. And the thing that's ultimately your ability to help you make smart decisions is the education you have in that subject. And it takes a lot of time to understand the thing that we're discussing right now for people to get genuinely comfortable with it. And so they lean on what's being told to them. And as we know, the marketing world is very strong. And so it's really, I say all that to say, I empathize with the people because I was once in that position as well, where I didn't, and I'm not trying to say I'm better or I'm smarter, but I do feel I've had the luxury of putting in a ton of time to understanding it. And now through that, my thoughts on all of it has evolved as well. And so it is silly and we get frustrated, but I feel a lot of our friends, and if we talk to other people in the space, they were probably once somewhere similar, even with Bitcoin, the same kind of way, you know? And so,
Interesting, yeah. How do you feel like about the Bitcoin adoption in 2025? You have been in Bitcoin some while, so I think Bitcoin 2025 seems to be like outrageously positive, and seems like
yeah, no, it
nothing
really,
really
the
stops us.
thing that I get the most excited is when I see the Bitcoin adoption in places outside of America and like Europe, when I see the adoption in countries that have horrible financial standards, and you see that adoption is the highest and it's the most there. Because inevitably, in the system that we're all in, they're going to continue to debase and like devalue our money, which is stealing our time with our family, our friends, our ability to go and join clubs, our ability to learn how to play the guitar or do the things that we would all like to do. And so eventually everyone is going to get pushed to that point where they say, what is going on? What is this? And they will be open to putting that time to understand. And we say in the Bitcoin world for a long time, Michael Saylor put it like, have fun staying poor. I hear it. There is a place for that, especially when you're constantly getting dragged by the media. But in this case, you just feel kind of bad for the people because they don't realize that it's coming for them as well. And the way I have this mindset that because I've tried to talk to so many people about Bitcoin, and so many people, if you start off just trying to be a prophet about it, they'll just dig their heels in the sand. They're done. They don't want the conversation. And now I'll introduce it to people, and the ones that are interested, I will definitely share with. But in my mind, everyone's a Bitcoiner. They just don't realize it yet. And so the more I can just look at that and kind of realize that it's coming, you know, like I'll just look at it in my head. It keeps me a little grounded. I don't get so frustrated. And it's like, it's okay. You know, eventually in time, I want to leave this where if you ever have any thoughts, questions, concerns, reach out, because I love talking about Bitcoin. I will spend day and night. Ask my wife. She got orange pilled just listening to me, listening to all the podcasts and everything, and just blabbing nonstop at the dinner table. And yeah, we're all going to be there in time. Eventually people will realize what it is, because when you ask people, hey, how does a ACH transaction occur? Like when you swipe your credit card or your debit card, what's happening behind the scenes? None of them know. It's like, all right, so why do you need to know every intricate detail about the Bitcoin network? Can't you know? But they were brought up with this, and this is what's comfortable. And so we're just in that phase, you know, there's there's really fun YouTube videos of when they brought out credit cards for the first time and they brought out debit cards, and this is never going to work. Who's going to use a credit card to buy Burger King? And now, I mean, people are using credit cards like it's just this is what you do. And so as time goes on, like our kids, they're going to be the first ones that are just brought up like, no, this is just how it is. Like, use Bitcoin. What are you talking about? And so we're just living in the transition.
And it's just most fun to be in. What do you think? Because you mentioned that you're most excited about the adoption in countries outside of the Western civilization. What do you think will Bitcoin do for human rights
Massive.
and lifting
Absolutely
up the spirits?
massive. And when you listen to, like, Lynn Alden said this quite a few times about how being over in Egypt, the way that they store value is by buying bricks so they can continue to add on to their house. And then I believe she said something about phone minutes as well, because they hold their value. When you think about that as a way of storing your work as a man or a woman who's trying to save so your family can have some type of fund for the future, and you're honest about it, that's just kind of wild to think about. And so when you give people the ability to be smart with their money, to look after their family, and to say that, look, you're going to have it a little bit better than I did, that, I mean, just the incentives alone in that statement are just wild what that means for humanity. And so I get the most excited because, I mean, there's been some, like I was just at the Bitcoin Policy Institute Summit in DC, and Alex Gladstein had on the lady, I wish I could remember her name, the woman from Afghanistan that's using Bitcoin to help educate kids and kind of escape the control of the Taliban. It's absolutely wild what she's able to do there and what that means. And I've been very fortunate in my time in the Air Force. I was stationed in North Dakota for 5 years, the Netherlands for 3, Turkey for 2, and I got to do a ton of traveling. And when I was over there, I got to realize that, man, these people are really kind. They are a little bit different, but overall, we're all the same. Like, I talk to fathers and uncles and moms, and they only want good for their kids. They want their kids to have a good education, have a good life. They might pray to a different God. You know, they might eat some different food, really tasty. And it's just, overall, though, the spirit that is a human, we share so much more in common than we do different. And I think the money is a tool of that control, which keeps us all separate and keeps it kind of in one person's favor. Whereas now, man, this is an even playing field, because those people in Africa or those people all throughout, the Middle East, they know how to use cell phones. They know how to sign up. They can download wallets. They can start doing this. They don't have to have gold hidden in their house to be worried about being stolen. And no, like, they can now start to set up their family and their bloodline in a way that has never been possible. That's incredible, And so I think there's going to be some incredible people, especially, this is the part of the game theory I like the most. This is the one that I think is the funnest. Whereas as this thing continues to rise up and it continues to gain in value, you have people that, well, as Checkmate says, there's always going to be sellers at some point, because there's people that are going to have life-changing money. But those are the cypherpunks. Those are the people from the beginning that think a little bit differently, took the risk. And so what happens when you have these people who want to see things changed, now have ostensive wealth, and they can start investing in the projects that bring about the change. They can invest in the politicians that think more their way, and it gets more entrenched. And so I think it's a really fun thought of what this money truly means and what it can do, because it definitely shook up the control system that was in place on the world, for sure.
It weirdly enough brings us closer together. It's if Bitcoin is successful, and I truly think this will be the case. It's just a question of when. I think Bitcoin will come to a point where it brings the earth
100%.
a little bit closer together.
What happens as all these other weaker currencies continue to hyperinflate away? They get onto the dollar, and eventually that follows the same path. Well, everything is going to, at a minimum, I feel, be backed by Bitcoin. There will probably still be some fiat currencies out there, but I believe that they will end up being backed by gold, Bitcoin, and other different reserves. And so, but what do you do when now you can trade with anybody anywhere in the world almost instantaneously with Lightning and whatever networks come out on top and layer 2s and then 3s? I mean, that completely opens up things that, they could control who you can you can barter with through the fiat system. They can say that we won't allow any transactions this way. You can't do that anymore. You can't stop me from receiving money and sending this package somewhere. And so this is where I think it's pretty incredible how even the playing field will be in this future world, even though like right now, the point we're living through, it seems like just a few people have all the Bitcoin air quotes, but that's going to continue to be pressed out, and that's going to continue to get divvied out to everybody. And yeah, I'm very hopeful. Getting out of the Air Force, I didn't have that much hope because I was a little lost and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I found the permaculture, and I found my mentor, Mark Shepard, and his restoration agriculture. And that gave me a lot of hope. Then I didn't have the hope because I couldn't afford it. And I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to have my own farm. And then I learned about Bitcoin, and I was like, well, this is incredible. That's what I was looking for here. And so now I just ooze hope nonstop. I'm just smiling all the time. And I think that's been my greatest orange pill, is that right there is, why are you so happy? People are like, what do you have? What is this? And it's like, well, let me tell you about what I do. Like, if you were in these shoes, if you had the vision that I see for the future, you would feel really positive as well.
Yeah, I love that. It's that we have a lot of things coming together. We have AI coming, we have Bitcoin coming, we have the decentralization of media coming, and I don't even only mean Nostr with that. I just mean in general. Previously, there were reporters and they reported to a big news agency, and now we just have people that just go out, film stuff, record stuff, report on stuff, and it comes directly from peer to peer. Yes, there's a central organization maybe in between with Twitter, YouTube, with all the social media platforms, but it is peer to peer. And this is kind of incredible. I feel like, and this time that we are living in, where everything kind of takes off, but a lot of people still don't get it. It is interesting. How can you be negative on the future once you really understand what's going on?
And I get it. Like, it's not every day's great and perfect and sunshine. We're still living in this fiat world, and there's still problems that come up. Family members go rogue and crazy on you, and like there's always things that can happen. But overall, my view towards where this world is going is so different than almost everybody I live around, and I have to contribute it to my belief that everyone's eventually going to be a Bitcoiner. And what happens when all these people that I know that are all working 9 to 5s, both dual income, so husband and wives are there, so they're not getting to spend that time around their family. They're not getting to sit around the dinner table and say, so like, what happened today? How are you doing? And having these massive connections with their kids. Like, what happens when these people realize that they can have their time back? And they can actually do that if they just start saving in Bitcoin. And what does that world look like? What does it look like if you can put money in a bank account like we were told, and that money would still have value later on? Well, that's very foreign to everybody right now because of the way we've been just debasing our currency. But man, it's not in Bitcoin terms. And the biggest thing, when you teach people that, yes, houses are forever going to get more expensive, you go up that rabbit hole, then you tell them about pricing them in Bitcoin and how it's forever getting cheaper. Everyone sits back on that one. Like, And it's like being homeless on a Bitcoin standard gets it to where more people would be willing to support them because everything costs less and less in order to help support the people that aren't contributing even anything. That's what? And so even for the people not in it on a Bitcoin standard on that world, everyone's better off. That's mind blowing. Like, that's such a hard thing to grasp. But once you start going down the rabbit holes, you can't unsee it once you see it.
The first time I ever made any money, I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from CoinVigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing CoinVigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. And now this is only for Bitcoiners. And this will come to basically everyone. But if you have Bitcoin and you see the average home price in the US, in the UK, like wherever you want to see it, this is falling drastically. And I haven't checked the website. Like the last time I checked, it was down. You probably know the Priced in Bitcoin 21 website. It's an outrageously amazing website. Oh, it's back on again. I love it. And you see the development, and I'll just share this with you. You probably are aware of that.
Yeah.
You know of this website? And if you go here, and most of the people that listening are in the US, so let's go to US, and you can see here it's June 2025 to August 2025. Let's go a little bit further out in history. Can we see it? Like all the history actually? That's fun. It starts from February 12th. Can we switch to a Bitcoin? So right now, the average home price seems to be 3.752343 Bitcoin. So this whole thing here. And if we just zoom back, let's say 5 years, this was 45 Bitcoin. We completely slashed home prices. You needed 45 Bitcoin or like let's say July, yeah, you needed 35 Bitcoin. Now it's actually perfect. It's a perfect 10x. July, or like, now we have August, right? Yeah, it's okay, 27. So like exactly 5 years ago, because now we have the 1st of August. This will come out a little later, probably like 11th of August or something like that. But today, as we're recording, 1st of August, 2025 to 2020, we went from 27 Bitcoin you need to 3.7 Bitcoin. So we kind of, I don't know, like we have now 1/9 of the price or something like that. We went down drastically. Yeah, like 5 years we went down 92% in the price of the average home. And if you go a little bit further, because I like to look at 10-year trends, and you go back to like 2015 in August, yeah, I have it here. You needed 1,045 Bitcoin for a home. Now you need
That's
3.
crazy, you know.
That
And
sounds so
so
crazy.
many people. I flew home from Costa Rica after one of my trips down there to work on one of the permaculture farms. And I was flying back, and I was sitting next to a banker and his wife. And his wife and I just started ripping, and we got on the topic of Bitcoin, and I was sitting there explaining it to her, and we talked about home prices. And I said, it's not that these homes are getting more expensive or that things are that much more valuable. It's the money. It's the fact that it takes more of the money because the money is worth less. And if you can start to understand that in your head, that it's not that these things are any better, it's that the money is worse, that you can't start unseeing. And so if we can figure out how to get that concept into people, then I don't know how you can't really start to question things. And I really love the work Jeff Booth does with his Price of Tomorrow. That was pivotal in my seeing that we live in the most technologically advanced age that we're aware of ever. We have the ability, like we have some incredible entrepreneurship, the ability to produce things so fast, so abundant. Well, why isn't that passing on the savings? Because entrepreneurs only go after areas where they realize they can try and save money, and they're trying to take profit from another person that's building a similar thing. And so what is it then? And then it's like, oh, well, it's the debasement of money that's also occurring at the same time, and it's outpacing the debasement of the entrepreneurial endeavors that people are going under. And it's like, man, what would the prices of things be if we were on a Bitcoin standard this entire time from 1971 to now? Like homes would be, how low? A couple 100,000 sats, maybe, and that's just a wild concept. And why I really believe that all of us, whoever's already stacking Bitcoin, whatever the amount you have, as long as you can hold on to that, ensure that it can be passed on once you pass away, you're changing your bloodline. And you're giving them a fighting chance. They have to be responsible with it as well. But man, as this thing continues to come on, and for the people that have been around for a long time, we see it. We see the game theory continuing to play out. More and more people are coming in. The financialization of it is happening right now. And so what is it when every S&P 500 company in the world, or just every company in the world, is now using it to also fight their debasement of the savings they have and the profits they have? We're so early, it's silly. Even at 100,000, I don't even know what we're at right now. I know it dropped down to like 115. It's still so early, and it's going so much higher. It's kind of crazy. I just want to know if it's going to be violent jumps or if it's going to be more of a gradual, steady step. That way we can have more time to hopefully get more people on board. But
I fear that we have extremely high
Same.
pushes. Like I fear that. And it's crazy because if we stick with the home example, you casually said like, oh yeah, like making it clear that it does not make sense for it to go up massively. But if we make that example with you build a new home, let's say you build a new home in 2020, and you make all the new changes. And you buy the land, you buy the house, you renovate it, you do all the things. Then you leave it like it is for 10 years. Now you got this first kind of problems. You would need to put in like 5K, 10K, maybe even 50K in restorations. Then you also have a house that's 10 years old with, here and there some problems, not as modern anymore, and here and there maybe some kind of cracks already in the thing. So 10 years ago you had a modern home, you had a perfect home, it looked great, and now 10 years later you don't have that anymore. But for some reason this older home, which you need to put money in to make it newer, to make it better again, this is now more worth than before. You cannot make it make sense. This is only making sense if you see it in the lens of fiat currency, and that's why I love the Bitcoin chart in real estate, just going down consistently. You get cheaper home prices every year, and the dream of owning a home will be very affordable. Now we're at 3 Bitcoin. We were at 27 Bitcoin 5 years ago. In 5 years, if we continue the same route, we might be at whatever, I don't know, 0.5 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin for the average home.
There's another website similar to what you're talking about where it says if you would, instead of buying this, if you would have bought Bitcoin, and it just goes to random points in time. And it's like, if you wouldn't have got this update of the iPhone and you would have bought Bitcoin, it would have been worth. And I mean, it's just ungodly amounts of money when it goes back a little bit, like the 2015, 2014. But you realize that, people, if you would have just taken $800 and bought Bitcoin at this time, you would have this life-changing money. And it's kind of fun because I've noticed with all of my friends and family that have taken this serious, that I've talked to and actually started to buy Bitcoin and to kind of go down this path with us, all of their spending habits have changed. They aren't all so quick to just go out and do the silly trips, or not silly trips. Vacations are fine, and I'm good with going and doing things. Like I'm not just stick in the mud here, holding on to my Bitcoin and like it's nothing like that. But you realize how many things you buy that you don't necessarily need, and what is it if you can delay that gratification? And what it is in this case, it means that you're going to have so much more freedom. You're going to be able to escape the rat race. Yes, this website right here. I love sharing it with people to show the power of stacking sats.
I love that. I've literally never saw that website. And I just Googled if you would have bought this instead of Bitcoin, and
go
it
through
literally
a couple.
showed up.
You're going to laugh so hard.
Website. So we are now seeing a website like if you bought a Bitcoin instead of a freaking stupid shit, you would have X amount of dollars. So let's see, this can't be that bad. Click here. So instead of an Xbox One, you would have now have $77,000 US. That's crazy.
No,
an Xbox One seems not that long ago.
And it shows you the release date down below. So it says when this snapshot was taken right below, right there. And so you know, like, this is wild. Who was it? TFTC just shared a thing the other day. And it said that if you would have been stacking $10 a day since 2015, I believe it was like that $36,000 that you've invested would have been worth, it was like $180 million or something at this point. And it's just, we don't understand compounding in exponential numbers. Like it's not an easy thing to grasp when you don't do it. Sorry to cut you off there. Just wanted to say that this is what this is showing right here,
I love that. That burger wasn't worth it. That website is such a great website. You, instead of buying, what is it, Snapchat spectacles?
That's the whole thing, right? We don't even know what it is, but you could have had $61,000, and was it worth it for that filter? Yeah.
Is that Bitcoin for dummies?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. If you just spent $15 on Bitcoin instead of buying that book, you would now have almost $4,000.
I mean,
Probably.
is
I'm
this a
guessing
Bitcoin
it because
explanation book or
the
like what
For
is that?
Dummies series there's like Wall Street for Dummies, English for Dummies, and it's just a way of breaking people down to teach people the basics of different topics.
Oh, I love that. I love that example. If you've bought a Bitcoin instead of a freaking iPhone 7, you would have now have over a Bitcoin. You would be a whole coiner now with 124,000 US dollars,
And now you've upgraded.
1.07
That's
Bitcoin.
wild, you know?
That
And
that shit.
iPhone 7s probably don't even work on the network anymore. And so you're completely on to new things. And you think about all the other iterations that you've been investing in. And that's where it's like when people say they don't have the money, and I get it, some people genuinely don't. Not trying to knock on these people, but for the people that do, they just don't want to make that choice. Like at the end of the day, you have yourself to blame in this because that you could hold on to your phone, go two more iterations, and you could take that $20 payment a month that Verizon or whoever your T-Mobile people would be, and put it into Bitcoin and watch what it does.
And here we have another calculator. What did you say? Like
Yeah,
in
yeah, it was 10
2015?
years.
Let's make that
Yeah, it was 10
example.
years in total is what they
In
were showing.
15.
10 years of $10 a day of DCA.
We now um we now have here $10 a day. We have daily. We have since August 2015 do like this. Let's see what comes out. You would have almost 16 Bitcoin. I don't know, like what the heck? This is
1.8. Yeah.
like 1.8
So it's way,
million.
that's crazy,
Like that.
you know? And
That's
so
crazy.
I need to go reach out to old Marty and get him to change the number that was on the thing. But I mean, that's wild right there. That's $10 a day. And for some people, like I said, it's a lot. I understand, but any amount you can put into it is worth it because that will continue to grow. And it's the easiest thing you'll ever have to worry about, especially once you go the next step, cold storage or multi-collaborative custody. It's you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about a CEO going rogue, taking some drugs and running through the streets, or you don't have anything to worry about because they're going to continue to print money. We're going to continue to do basic because if not, the system collapses. And no one wants to, like, I don't want to live through that. We're in a really unfortunate time. You know, it's got to continue to get worse in the fiat world. It has to. If not, all hell is going to break loose and it becomes a Mad Max moment. And I don't want that. It's not something I desire to be around, to have my wife around, to have kids around. And so, but if you can come to this other side and start putting your value in Bitcoin and allowing it to grow, it's kind of like Peter Dunworth said not too long ago, is 45 to 55% CAGR not enough? Like, what more do you need than that right there? Because when we average out the compounded annual growth, the rate at which the value of the network is building, it's higher than anything that's out there. And it's just buy it, hold it, let it sit, forget you have it. And I don't know. It for me, it's wild. You don't have to spend hours and hours trying to guess on a stock or do they have something new coming out and that's great. Like that's the old system's way of thinking. Money should be money and that's all it needs to be. And if money can just be money, man, that gives us a whole lot of freedom right there.
And there is a lot of interesting examples with a football stadium filling. I just pulled that up and I want to make that example. I just literally asked ChatGPT about that because I'm always crazy with those numbers. So if you have you're dropping water, single drops of water into a football stadium, and you start at noon, 12 p.m. And every minute, the amount of water that you put into the football stadium doubles. So like 12:01, 2 drops, 12:02, 4 drops, 12:03, 8 drops, and so on. Then how long until a stadium is completely full of water? What would be your guess?
I feel it's in probably like I would say a week or so because it's going to start to get to be so much. Yeah. It's a lot quicker than we want to believe. I know that much.
So the whole stadium is filled within 49 minutes.
That's crazy.
Now comes the real truth of exponential growth. 49 minutes from 0 to 100, like completely filled. But the craziness is in how quick it goes there. After 45 minutes, so like 49 minutes is 100%. 45 minutes, it's only full with 6.2%. It's 4 minutes. The last 4 minutes, 93% of all the water comes in the last.
I guess that's
4
Parker
minutes.
Lewis's gradually, then suddenly. That's the then suddenly moment right there.
And then even almost crazier, in the last minute, it's only 50% full. So if you're standing you sit at noon at 12 p.m. on the football stadium and you wait till your feet touches the water, after 45 minutes, you're like, yeah, it's only like a little bit, like it's there. I can still see it, like 6% only. Then 3 more minutes and it already is half full. And then give it 1 more minute and the whole stadium is full. I think people just have no clue about exponential growth, and it's really hard to grasp. Like, oh shit, like what? How quick is this going? So. I like doing those examples and literally and everyone can do that. Go ahead and open your AI tool of choosing Grok, ChatGPT, whatever, and type in, give me the craziest example that you can come up with to show me the power of exponential growth. And I literally just did that and just read you what's going on. And
it's wild. Like we're not.
That's amazing.
Our brains don't really comprehend that. And that's okay. But just know that it's working against us when we think about what this system is that we're talking about, what the potential is. And that's one of the things that it's a big motivator behind what we're doing here with the Bitcoin Stewardship Initiative. Is one of the biggest complaints with Bitcoin and its adoption is the use cases for it, because people don't just see the money side of it yet. And so that's kind of where we want to go, and we want to attach a use case to it, because what happens if we can say that by backing environmental restoration with the world's hardest money, what happens when we can start fighting desertifications, prevent people from having to, run away because of the fact that their ecosystems are collapsing? What happens when we can go and start refilling some of the water tables and the watersheds around the world that we're all depleting through irresponsible use of water management? And it's pretty incredible, And so how do we help people realize that just like the value side of things when it comes to the financial worth of Bitcoin, what happens when we layer on literally starting to heal the planet and doing it in a way where I don't need to go out every year and ask for people to give more money for these things that we're trying to do? We're going to use Bitcoin, which as we store our Bitcoin away, it's going to continue to grow, which will mean that we can do bigger projects later. We can go and fund more projects, and it's absolutely insane. And so I've never been a finance person. I just fell in love with planting trees, putting out swales, which is a way to capture water coming down a hill and to spread it out. And the thought of what does it look like if we take degraded farmland and we build a food producing forest that's designed with intention, where normal agriculture, I'm out there every year having to replant. Well, what if we can start switching to a system that's perennial and it does the same exact thing like we're talking about? It exponentially gets bigger and healthier as time goes on. That's a game changer, and that's now the base layer in which to operate on. And so Bitcoin just aligns incentives, and hopefully more people start to understand it and get into it. And there's some incredible people doing great work. I think of Elihu and the Cornell Bitcoin Club and the work they're doing to start educating people. And it's the last couple of weeks, I've met some incredible Bitcoin clubs here in the Tennessee area. And it's awesome to see that the grassroots movement's happening. It doesn't get all the coverage, but it's out there, and Bitcoiners are all around you. And so I think it's a pretty incredible thing, because it's not often you get to live through the adoption from the very beginning of something like this, And so we all get to play our own hand in helping to spread the word through the works that we do and how we speak, hold ourselves, and what an incredible thing to be able to say you're a part of.
It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on, because I think we mentioned it a little bit before slightly, and I haven't really addressed this a lot in the podcast. It's the distribution of Bitcoin. And there's a lot of people that say, especially outside of Bitcoin, that say it's like an unfair distribution because the OGs have so many and it's so hard for the people that come in to acquire Bitcoin. How do you look at the fair distribution of Bitcoin versus the extremely unfair distribution of Fiat, and explaining kind of the difference?
This is one of the wild things where you have to wonder if Satoshi is deity or something, whereas he put out this email and said, look, I think I've solved it. I've got this network that can do all these things that we've been discussing. He mined one block, turned it off, sent out the email, waited a week, and then started to mine again, just so it would be fair that he wouldn't be the first and only person mining Bitcoin. And it's like, if I don't know a fair way to do this, because you can't force people to do things. No one wants their liberties and rights encroached on. If someone just told you you had to do it, more than likely you would say no, so you would have turned it down anyway. And so this is about as fair as it can get when it comes to the distribution of something. Nothing in life is genuinely fair. We can try to get as close to it as we can, but when it comes to Bitcoin, anyone can buy it at any price. The fact that you're in a first world country using a currency that has 30 times the value of someone in Argentina or Egypt or, Zimbabwe, that's not fair. You can buy way more Bitcoin with your money than they can. So are you just going to not buy it and just go and ship it to? No, that's not it. You should continue to stack and realize that, you are in a position to be fortunate and do something responsible with it. And it's not to condemn people, because I get it. That there's a deep pull in that, wanting things to be fair for people. But a majority of people listening to this podcast, more than likely, are in positions where they have it pretty well off compared to people around the world. And okay, what do you do with it? It's not fair that you were born in Europe or you were born in North America, or you could have just as easily been born in the Middle East in a war-torn country where the war is right there, but you weren't. And so, okay, what do you do with that? How do you go and realize that you have advantages? And I think it's something similar to that. And no one thinks it's fair that the people closest to the money printer can just continue to exponentially grow their wealth. We all agree. And so this is the fairest system when you start to realize that we can't just print more of this. It would take people wanting to debase their own value that are already there. And I really think that there's going to be some very incredible moments where Bitcoin gets distributed out. And I don't think people are just going to hold on to it forever. And some people will, for sure. I guess there's going to be people that just put it away and it's done. But as Bitcoin continues to get adopted, and as the value continues, because it's really hard to sell your Bitcoin right now for things, because we all see where this thing's going. And so right now people are in I want to hold it and bring it in mindset. But once Bitcoin gets closer to that $1 million a coin, I feel you're going to see more and more people who can now spend and create those circular economies where, heck yeah, I'm going to start supporting Bitcoin only businesses. Absolutely, I'm going to do this because I want to see it go. And so in the end, it's the closest to fair that we've ever had. no one can create this thing. It's the network that's doing it. Like, that's what's fair, you know?
Yeah, there's just and this is the fairest system, and it's sometimes I feel like because if there's one person that has a little and there's one person that has a lot, it can still be fair. And that's a hard discussion because, like, if we have a full Bitcoin world, I still think there will be a richest person alive, and there will be someone that hasn't gone that has not that many Bitcoin. And I think the difference between the richest person alive and kind of the median will be huge still because of proof of work. And there's this like, yeah, if you provide a lot, you will also get a lot. If you get what I mean. Do you think, like, how will the wealth distribution, do you think, change in a Bitcoin denominated world versus like
already in a
fiat
fiat one, it's not good. And so if that's the baseline, we're doing all right here, because I believe that you're going to see more people escaping that fiat rat race in a Bitcoin world than anyone that's stuck in the fiat system. And so when you look at the adoption charts on where it's the heaviest or where it's the biggest, it's over in places where the IMF and the World Bank have come through, and they have basically overnight, they've made these deals with dictators or the presidents, the kings, whoever's in charge, and overnight they've devalued people's life savings by 50%, 30%, whatever it is. And when you see the adoption happening there, where people aren't just holding on to that money that's been robbed from them, and they're starting to save, and they're some of the biggest users of the network, you realize that the places that are now closer to the bottom, I believe, are going to be places that continue to raise up and build up a lot faster. And so I believe that it will end up being a very interesting thing to watch unfold, because there's no country has joined the IMF bank or, the World Bank or the IMF, and through their loans has raised into a first world nation where they're all just doing great and excelling. And no, they're stuck in the system now, but the people under it have a way to escape now. And so we all want it to happen quick and fast and right away, which is another fiat mindset thing right there. We don't believe in the natural cycles anymore. We don't have the time anymore because all of our time preferences are so shattered that it's hard to be patient. But when you're redirecting a cruise ship to the right, you don't just do a hard right 90 degrees. You do a slow, big, methodical turn. And that's what we're witnessing, And so really it's find the things for you that, all right, what says this isn't going to happen? What says that this isn't right or going in the right direction? Find those things for you. And if that comes up, for sure, question it. But if not, man, this is absolutely incredible, the things that we've been able to see. And you don't get to hear the stories of the people in these other countries that have escaped the hold that their systems had on them. Like, we're not on the ground interviewing these people, and they probably wouldn't want to share it anyway, because in a lot of these countries, you speak out against the government. It's not like the conveniences we have here. They're in jail, they're locked up there, and so they're quiet. But it's happening, It really is. It
it's a
really
shame,
is.
man.
But like we said, as Bitcoin continues to go up, more people will be in that life-changing wealth spot. And now they can direct their financial energy into areas that we can start correcting some of these things. And so I don't think the world is just perfect and everything is kumbaya and it's just all happy on a Bitcoin. So there's still problems. But so much of the problems that we're associating today, I think we can actually, as long as people are willing to put in the effort, we can start addressing them honestly. And it's kind of crazy. My wife and I we went to our first Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin Vegas, and she goes, we were there for the industry pass. And then, so we were there a day early. She's like, Chris, I've never seen so many just healthy people in one place. Like, this is kind of wild. What is it? And it's because people have something to live for. They're like, no, I want to be old and be able to run around with my grandkids. And, whereas on a fiat world, when we get back to reality, it's just, these are all symptoms of people that don't have time, that are just quick, give me some type of satisfaction. And mouth satisfaction is a hard thing to fight. At my heaviest, I was 300 pounds. And I was drinking a lot. I was eating anything I could get my hands on. But it wasn't until I started to address these things, take myself serious, stop hiding behind that smile, like I said before, that, man, it's kind of crazy. And part of it is the hope that I feel as well through this system and through what we can do. And man, I have a purpose to my life's energy now, whereas a lot of people don't feel that purpose, don't share that idea. But if you can plant the seed, people don't want to be on this other path. Like I said, we all, at the core of us, we might want to do things a little different, wear different clothes, listen to different music. But at the core, we all want to contribute and feel that our contributions are respected and people are grateful. And the drivers of us are pretty dang similar. And so it's just, Fiat has a good way of spreading all that out and not allowing us to come together. Whereas now, man, Bitcoiners are all kind of people. It's pretty incredible to hear the ways it's getting used and intertwined. And it's some of the most hopeful, happy, just genuine people you can come around. It's kind of wild.
It is extremely wild. Before we get to the end routine, we have one question actually that asks, and maybe you know about it, that asks each and every one of my guests. And the question is kind of, what can we learn from you?
Besides Bitcoin, the thing that I love the most is doing the thing that I'm doing now. It's taking that risk, creating the Bitcoin Stewardship Initiative, and going and doing the regenerative agriculture / ecosystem restoration work. And I think one of the things that you can learn from me, or alongside me, I should say, is the fact that we can make these very, it's intuitive once you learn it, but we can go out and we can design these landscapes to get better and healthier every year. And we can plant food systems on top of them that support all of the local ecology, all the butterflies, the birds, all the animals. And that it's pretty incredible what happens when we start designing our base layer of reality in a way that gets better every year, very similar to the Bitcoin ethos. And so it would be that right there, that even if the thing that you have is just a front yard, you can still grow a ton of food and design it to support and just supplement your life in a way that it's pretty incredible. And so, yeah, I think it's that one right there. I love the projects we do and that we're a part of. And I love the fact that I know there's certain parts of America I can go to that I went and working with my mentor, Mark Shepard, and the restoration agriculture team. And we've taken degraded farmland, old dairy farms, and just these pretty nasty pieces of property. And we've laid out miles of water catchment. We've planted hundreds of thousands of trees on them. And we brought in farmers that wanted to rotationally graze their cattle. And they also do like chickens and I believe some pigs. And I can go to these places and I can guarantee you that Mother Nature is doing her thing. We just designed her to do it. We just gave her the design. And now that is going to, in time, turn into trees that I can get shade underneath. And it's going to become this healthy, thriving ecosystem. But the farms all around them, they're still going to be struggling. They're still going to just be getting a little worse every year. Whereas we can really redesign our food systems in nature's image, and nature thrives. That's what she wants to do. 100%, my friend.
The farms for the win.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love it.
We have an end routine, as you know. We had a previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the short and interesting question of, are treasury companies the shitcoins of this cycle?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of heat around treasury companies right there. And
it's a loaded one.
I do struggle with some of it. With some of it, I do, like, we all want number go up, but this does centralize the holding of Bitcoin. And I don't understand the total use case other than we're just going to hold on to it and the number's going to go up. I do get that the whole stock side of it and how you can make money. I hear all that. But when I think about using Bitcoin as money, it's not necessarily being used as money in this regard. I also say that I feel that we are a Bitcoin treasury company in the work that we do, because as we raise this money, we go out, we partner with these landowners and the people that are doing ecological restoration work. And the way we do it is we offer them a discount to the work that they're doing, where they would only pay a portion of it. We use the money from our bond raise to pay that off. And the money that they give us, the landowner, goes into our treasury. And so we stack Bitcoin. We're turning that into Bitcoin. And as that treasury continues to grow, the bond terms are closer to 10 years being a green bond. It's a longer term. As that continues to grow, we can now pay back the investors, and we can, what was once just a pond install for somebody is now contributing to us helping to do watershed restoration down the road, because their money went into our treasury. And so I say that like we're kind of a treasury company, but our treasury only grows if we do some type of ecological restoration. And so there's a use case now. There's something that's happening in return for us stacking Bitcoin. And so our treasury growing, you can point to, oh, well, look at this forest that was planted out. You know, look at this farm that was converted over to regenerative, and look at these oil and gas wells that are capped now and the methane's not shooting into the air. And so I feel like in that sense, no, it's pretty incredible use of a Bitcoin treasury company. I say that also knowing that we have a Satoshi Restoration Fund clause in our founding documents that at the end of every cycle, we're taking 50% of our net profits from that Bitcoin after we pay back the investors, the taxes, and we're putting that directly back into that Bitcoin circular economy we were talking about, where we're just going to start funding as much of the funnest ecological projects we could think of. Like, that's our citadel. It's not going to be a massive house or a big building. It's going to be Mother Nature, and we're going to design her so incredibly lush and beautiful. And so I do think there's use cases for Bitcoin treasury companies. I prefer to see people stacking sats from giving something else, if that's fair. Like, I prefer to see people earning that, doing proof of work, not just giving out stock shares and watching the MNAV. And that's not the way I prefer to do it, but I guess power to the people to do it. It's open source. I can't tell them not to.
It is. Bitcoin is the permissionless system, and everyone can use it as they want. I think the only comparison I can point to with comparison with like treasury companies and shitcoins is that if you have the past cycles, you have a lot of the number go up technology people that just piled into altcoins, and now they're piling into treasury companies, which is a good development, if I'm totally honest. And yeah, thank you so much, Kriss, for being on. Before I let you go,
sure, yeah.
Find you,
so I have BTC Stewardship. So the three letters STEWARDSHIP.org is our website that we have set up right now. I'm on Twitter at Sats, SATSTOSOIL, so Sats the Soil. And that's where we are currently. And I'll be launching Twitter for the Bitcoin Stewardship Initiative here pretty soon. I just need to put the profile together. And so, yeah, come follow on Twitter, and then join on the website. Please sign up for the email list so we can start getting some people out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kriss, for being on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always,
take care. See you, Robin.
Back tomorrow with another episode. Bye-bye. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.